I feel that in business, but also in life, many people dismiss the human aspect. And the human aspect is so important, especially in business, but also in other type of circles. Why? Because in practice, in business, you cannot get profit without people. The building brick of any business activity is the human being.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Audley Stevenson, and I'm back once again with another edition of the most audacious podcast you'll find on the internet. That I promise you. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and as always, it continues to be my pleasure to be here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. You've got it locked to episode 229 of the podcast, and I'm super pleased to welcome Dr. Bruno Cignacco as today's guest. He's on for a delightful chat about the power of compassion and why it's in the best interests of ourselves and businesses to incorporate love and compassion into how they operate on a daily basis. There's no question in my mind that you'll hear some wonderful insights from Dr. Bruno that he shares with us. It definitely is a great chat. So without any further ado, here it is. Enjoy. Hey, Bruno, thank you for joining me here on the Audacious Living Podcast. You know, we've been trying to do this for a while, and and perseverance is key, and we kept at it. You know, we were back and forth, and we made it happen, and the day is finally here. So I'm glad that you spent the time here with me on the podcast.
Thank you very much for your invite. Thank you for your patience. Thank you very much.
Very much. No, not my pleasure, my absolute pleasure. Now, you spend a lot of time as a speaker yourself and a consultant and a coach, really helping people understand the topic of compassion and the art of compassion, how it fits in our lives. And I think that's a really nice connection to this on this podcast, because we encourage individuals to live what we call their best audacious lives ever. And in order to do that, and interact with people, we need to not only just receive, but also be able to give compassion to other human beings. And so, you know, we can't accomplish anything else without that work with the assistance of others on our journey and on our pathway. And compassion is a big part of being able to work with people. So maybe as a starting point, I'll sort of get you to sort of describe further, what got you to this point and the work that you're doing now.
Yes, thank you for the question. Very important question. I started traditionally, first of many years ago, as an accountant, like doing the traditional accounting tasks like taxes, audit, and so on. Then I turned into a consultant based on in Europe on international trade. I was specialized. I'm still specialized in international trade, import-export activities, also advising companies on how to develop international marketing strategies. Very successfully, but the idea is that what I felt is that my approach on consultancy was focused on strategies, tactics, how to get better deals, but I wasn't focused my consultancy activities on principles. And I feel that in business and in life, principles are more important than the strategies. Over time, I started researching on the topic of compassion in general and compassion and business. And this was coronated by my latest book that is titled The Art of Compassionate Business. And as a consequence of this, I started advising companies on how to become much more humane, how to connect to customers in a much more supportive way, how to connect to employees instead of exploiting employees, instead of depleting their energy, how to, for example, reward their contribution, how to acknowledge their uniqueness. And I feel that in business, but also in life, many people dismiss the human aspect. And the human aspect is so important, especially in business, but also in other type of circles. Why? Because in practice, in business, you cannot get profit without people. The building brick of any business activity is the human being. Without human being, no companies can develop new products, no company can develop new services, no company develop strategies. And it's important both for business and also for close relationships like friends, family, and relatives to develop long-term relationship. These relationships are very, have particular traits. This means that are relationship based on win-win agreement. This means that one party wins and the other party wins too. This means that no party is taking advantage of others, or no party is getting the gains at the expense of the losses of others.
Right.
In business, it's so common that companies, for example, take advantage of customers. They try to rip them off, or companies try to, for example, pollute the environment. They take advantage of the natural environment and deplete the resources, deforestation, use of non-renewable sources of energy, throwing waste in the river water or the sea water. Well, this is an example of non-compassionate business. However, there are other companies and individual and business leaders that have a different approach. They say, we're in business to make profit. This is very clear. But also we're there to care for people. We call the 3Ps model. Profit, the first P. Caring for people means caring for our employees, that are one of the most important resources, caring for customers, for our business partners, for the community members, but also caring for the planet. We see what happened now in Hawaii, what happened with this type of natural disaster, and this will be more common. Why? Because the global warmth is not something imaginary. It's something that is going on for decades, and it's getting worse and worse. If companies don't take a responsibility and try to use much more renewable sources of energy and also contribute to green energy, green product, green packaging, well, obviously they are bringing about a negative impact. So my approach in business is that, and in life, that relationships are the most important resource in any type of environment. Business environment or non-business environment. You cannot go further without relationship, because we're all interdependent. We rely on each other and we try to support each other. So this is, in very brief comment, what is my journey. I can expand more if you want, but my important point in this last work, the Art of Compassionate Business, is to introduce the word love in the business activities. When I introduce this word, the publisher told me, "It's not, are you sure to introduce this word? Because it's a bit uncommon to talk about love and business." But here we're not talking about the sentimental aspect of love, which is very important, the love that you feel for your family, friends, or your partner. But we're talking about a much more humanistic aspect of love, which includes generosity, camaraderie, includes support, care, include compassion, empathy, include gratitude. All these are principles that should be always present in the business activity, because when a company embraces these principles, bring about reciprocity. When the company is grateful to customers, this customer is grateful to the companies and leave more positive reviews, will recommend this product to other friends or relatives. Instead, when the company is not generous with this customer, it's stingy, it's not grateful for the customer custom, well, this customer might look for other companies that are much more caring for this customer. So the concept of love is so important and has many what I call sub-products: generosity, gratitude, care, support. And this is also making the business life much, much richer, but also the personal life much richer. So we have to nurture the relationship with not only close circle, the people that we know, but also people that you might not know, but you can help them, or you can, for example, have a random act of kindness and support them in some cases in a very intangible way, with good advice, with a good word, given an ear to listen to them, and so on.
So I love everything about what you've said, and I agree with you in terms of all the when we talk about the kindness and generosity and all the other things that flow out of love and compassion. I think what we're starting to see more and more and more, and you touched on, companies are being more mindful of that and being an understanding that it's a key to their survival, quite frankly, and a core aspect. Because if people don't connect with you, and connection we'll talk about in a moment, but if people aren't connecting with you through those aspects, then they'll just go somewhere else that does offer that. And you gave that point as well. So I think that's it's incredible points. what I'm curious about is when did you yourself personally understand the connection or of compassion and business? Because you gave the example of the publisher, they weren't sure initially. Are you sure this belongs? But right, when did you realize that?
I realized this because what happened? Let's talk about this. How is the traditional way of approaching business? The traditional way of approaching business is very simple. I call this approach quantitative approach. This means that quantitative means that what is important is the quantity, the figures, the numbers. So, for example, this quantitative aspect could be more profits, more sales, more market share. These are things that can be measured. We call this quantitative aspect, we call key performance indicator. Company want more profitability, more productivity, more sales, and so on. So this can be measured. But what I observed that there are other aspects in business that we call qualitative aspect in business. This means related to qualities that cannot be measured. There is a famous thinker that observed, not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. So this means that other aspects of business that cannot be measured precisely, like profit, market share, and so on, that count, that are important. And what are these aspects? Are the aspects that I call relational aspects of business that include support, care, compassion, generosity, camaraderie, loyalty, commitment. And these are very important. Why? Because in practice, in business, as I mentioned, you have a very important principle that is called interdependence. You cannot succeed without customers. You cannot succeed without employees. We cannot succeed without the community member. You extract the resources from communities. And also, you cannot succeed without business partner or retailers or other intermediaries. And this means the only way that to get this profit is with all these we call stakeholders. This means individuals and groups with interest in our company. But in order to for this stakeholder to contribute to your objectives, you have to put them on your side. They shouldn't be against you. And in order to be on your side, you have to build long-lasting and robust relationship with this stakeholder. And how you build this robust relationship with these stakeholders? The only way is to satisfy mutual needs. So this means the company satisfy their needs and the customer satisfy their needs. Employees satisfy their needs. And this can only be done when the company adopt a compassionate attitude, a supportive attitude, a caring attitude. Because if the company is only self-centered, they're centered on their own objectives without caring for the interests of others, the relationship will be a short-term relationship, short-term oriented relationship, and won't prosper. What we want is long-term, mutually profitable or mutually beneficial relationship that extend over time and get stronger over time. So, and companies, what I observed, there are many examples of companies that focus on care, on support, on all these principles and try to help these different stakeholders and improve their lives in different ways. This company not only get more profitable, but they have better brand image, they get more recognized, they have a better impression on all the communities, and they attract talented people. So they're natural magnets to attract talented people. Why? Because talented people want to work for companies that have a meaningful mission, that they are not only there for the profit, but they try to improve the life of communities and the planet. So this is in simple ways, but it's important to understand that these key performance indicators key performance indicators such as profit, market share, productivity can only be improved indirectly when you nurture the relationship with this stakeholder, because you need this stakeholder to achieve this indicator. If you want to get more sales, you have to treat employees well. Why? Because employees are the one in contact with customers. And obviously, if employees are unhappy, this employee won't treat customer in the best way. Will treat employees, employee will treat probably customer in a very cold way. Why? Because the employee, him or herself, is unhappy. Instead, when employees is well paid, recognized, acknowledged, appreciated, and also have all the needs, not only the economic needs, but the emotional needs, mental needs, also social needs satisfied, this employee will go the extra mile, will work overtime without any effort. Why? Because they love what they do and they try to help the company succeed.
And I love that, because I think what happens is sometimes they forget how strong that connection is between employees and the work that they do. And if you feel good about your work, you will kind of go that extra mile, and you will do more, and you'll feel, and employees will have a sense of pride about the company they work for, because they know the company cares about them.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree completely. I like your words, because employee doesn't care only for a good salary. Employee want to know that they count, that what they do is important, that what they do will make a better world to a certain extent. Little contribution or big contribution, they want to feel that their contribution is meaningful. So this means that employees have different needs. Not only, most companies focus only on the basic need, economic needs. They say, okay, we pay a good salary. Okay, you pay a good salary. Is this employee recognized? Is employee appreciated on a regular basis? Is employee acknowledged publicly when they make a good contribution to the company's objective? Is this employee social needs acknowledged too? Do we allow employees to not only to meet with colleagues to work, but also to have some social events to celebrate, or to, for example, socialize, let their hair down? Because this is important too. These are social needs, intellectual need to, do you stimulate these employees' interest? For example, offering novel activities. Many employees, what happens, they're bored to death. They're doing every single day. For example, like hammering a nail, and hammering a nail, and hammering a nail. How you can be stimulated if you are doing always the same? Instead, companies that understand that employees have intellectual needs, they make these employees rotate. They may, for example, okay, you can work this month in the marketing department. By next month, you might be in the administrative department, so that you learn a bit more, and then you can go to the productive department. And so
you're growing now.
Idea is,
you want growth.
Employers, exactly, the employees want to grow and also hone their skills, and they want to feel that they're developing their skills. So this is what I want to the listener to understand, that is important that all human beings have multi-dimensional needs. This means that we don't have only economic needs, we have mental needs, we have social needs, we have emotional needs, and some author will say that we have also spiritual needs. We have to address, in business as in life, you have to address every single need, not only the economic needs. Okay?
Yes. No, that's a very good point. And another, when we talk about needs and what people more and more people are looking for businesses, is them to have an impact on our environment socially. Right, that social impact is also something that people measure. And in fact, and we saw, after the pandemic, what they call the Great Resignation, where people realize that I don't need to be here anymore. I don't want to be here no more. And you heard companies having problems finding people to work for them. Right, so it's very much important understanding, how companies not only just portray themselves, but what they do, those things now matter in a major way.
They're very important. And also companies that are wise and they try to keep their employees and keep these employees satisfied, understand that each employee is unique. They're not a cog in machinery, in the organizational machinery. They are unique with their unique skills and talents. And company, by knowing this, will try to allocate tasks to these employees that are aligned with their skills and not aligned with the good talents that they have. Because if not, you are wasting these talents, you are wasting these capabilities. Supposing that the employee is very good at designing, for example, pictures and designing website and so on. But you put this employee in a completely different function that cannot make any design. You are wasting this employee natural skills. So the idea is that companies should first assess employees' skills, discover the unique skill that they have, and then try to harness this skill in the most effective way, and also help this employee develop new skills too, not only harnessing the natural skill, but also develop new skills so that the employee feel fulfilled. Right. Also, they feel that they're meaningful, they're counting, they're contributing in a meaningful way.
Gotcha. No, I hear you loud and clear, and it's a really good point. There's meaning that's involved, and it has to be a part of what companies do to to have the biggest impact. I want to talk about the power of connection and how important it is that the businesses are connecting. And you mentioned some of the stakeholders, whether they're customers or the customers are number one. I mean, they run their business, obviously, that's why they keep going through happy customers, but through their employees and through other stakeholders they work with. I wonder if you can talk about how important connection is.
Okay, a very important point. I thank you for asking this. There is a famous research study that I want to cite here in this interview. That is a research study that analyzed companies that have a loving, they use the word love in this study, loving work environment. And what they observe, what is a loving work environment? An environment where colleagues support one another, when employees can express their ideas without being judged or harshly criticized, where employees can work jointly without competing with each other. They work in a joint way and cooperating with each other. A loving work environment is a loving work environment also when employees can give their opinions and can give feedback to each other, and every feedback is interpreted in a constructive way. In this loving workplace, according to this study, the researchers observed that when there is a loving workplace, there is lower absenteeism, so employees like to go to work. You have a higher employee satisfaction, higher employee motivation, higher customer satisfaction too. Why? Because employees are satisfied and also they are more likely to serve customers more effectively, lower stress levels, and according to these studies, all these positive indicators impact in a very beneficial way on the bottom line, means profit. So this means that companies that are loving, that have a loving workplace, loving work environment, tend to have lower stress, lower costs, also lower medical costs related to health or absenteeism, and employees are more motivated and more oriented to customer, which bring about more profit. So this means being loving in the workplace, being more connected to one another, having this solid, this robust relationship with colleagues implies not only better relationship with these colleagues, but also more profit, more economic result, positive economic results.
I think it's so wonderful that we can actually make that direct connection to profits and connection. I think it's wonderful, and companies that aren't paying attention to that, and I think they need to, first off, but the companies that are paying attention to that are getting it, understanding it, because they recognize what's keeping their survival around, what's keeping them going, and you've got a lot more organizations that are, whether they set up charitable businesses or foundations, or there's a cause that they're committed to, that they are out in the community. These are all sort of things that matter. They also look at the environmental aspect. And I wonder if you sort of touch on the things that companies can do from an environmental standpoint.
Okay, first, so we have to understand that companies are always inserted in an environment. Some companies will say, no, environmental aspects are not issues that they have to resolve. This should be resolved by NGOs, non-governmental organizations. This should be resolved by the government. But it's not true, because the company is getting benefit from this environment. An environment, we're not talking about the environment only, the natural environment, but we're talking about the environment and the community. The company is getting resources, for example, from the community is getting the employees, but from the natural environment is getting resources. For example, if you have a furniture manufacturer, you get the wood from the forest and so on. So the natural resources come from the environment.
Yes.
What many companies do is they use a non-compassionate approach. They try to deplete the resources. They try to use non-renewable sources of energy. They try to, in some cases, they try to avoid using materials that are environmentally friendly. In some cases, what I observe that is very common, companies, to impress customers, they use what we call in marketing over packaging. For example, you are selling a ring that is this size, and you bring a box that is, carton box that is massive, unnecessary for this small product. Why? Right. Because they want the customer to feel impressed and impressing other customers, but this is wasting resources. If the ring is this way, why you need to use a big box? So what I see in companies that have the opposite approach on this, they mean that they have a compassionate approach. This means that companies try to use for example, organic materials, for example, organic ingredients, which imply that they do not pollute the environment. Organic ingredients certified, they don't use pesticides, they don't use any chemicals. This is good, not only for the environment, and for the natural environment, but also for the health of customer. Why? Because the customer might not get any health condition because of using chemicals and so on.
Yep.
So some companies are also contributing to the environment in different way, for example, through foundations. So I give you an example. For example, the company like IKEA that is selling furniture and so on, they get all this wood for this furniture from certified forests. What this means, certified forests? They're forests that have a certification that implies that when you cut a tree, new trees will be planted. This means that you are not depleting the resources fully, but you are not deforesting, but on the contrary, you are contributing to renew the resources in the natural environment. Right. So, but also about the environment, I want to mention something. We have a concept that is called greenwashing. Maybe you might have heard of this. Greenwashing implies is an stratagem, a ploy that many companies employ to pretend that they are socially oriented, environmentally friendly, but they do this only for the purpose of public relation objectives. So this means that companies pretend that they are using not renewable materials or they're using recyclable materials, but it's not true. They are not truthful. They are not truthful because they want to impress the community in a positive way. But when you dig deeper, you see that the companies are acting like any other company, most traditional companies, not caring so much for the environment, using a material that include chemicals and non-organic products and so on. So this example of greenwashing is an example of non-compassionate approach. This implies that you are trying to pretend, you're lying, you're trying to pretend that you are environmentally friendly, you promote everywhere this, but then in practice, I don't want to give any name of this company, but there are many on the media that you can find, that in practice, then when you dig further, when you look into the packaging, you say, okay, but this is not environmentally friendly, but I can see some chemicals there, especially for food product, that this is not very environmentally friendly. So we have to be aware, and I always believe that in this current era and in the future, there will be much more what we call conscious customer. This means customer that will only buy products to satisfy their needs, but also by buying this product will try to make an indirect positive contribution to the communities and to the environment. Why? Because they will support only companies that authentically care for the employees, care for the communities, care for the environment, care for suppliers, and will leave aside, without any doubt, those companies that are only profit-oriented.
Very interesting. Greenwashing, no, it's not a term I'm familiar with. So you offered me some insights there. So thank you for that. And even, Bruno, just understanding again the impacts that that can be made by businesses in the environment is tremendous. And again, like I was saying earlier, you're seeing more and more dedicating their energy, time, and resources, and with good reason. So I thank you for that. We've been talking a lot about compassion and love from the standpoint of businesses, right? And companies, employers, and I think we've done a good job in making those points clear. I wonder if you could sort of touch on those same philosophies in our day-to-day interactions with one another and why that's important.
Very good. Well, let's talk about two important principles that are connected to compassion and are connected also to the concept of love, humanistic aspect of love. Two main principles that are important, that there is a lot of research, not only in the business environment, but also in close circles, are generosity and gratitude. I want to talk about these two concepts that are very closely connected to compassion. Generosity implies that when you are generous to others, implies that you are focusing on others, you are not self-centered, and you bring about a positive cycle. In scientific studies, there are lots of research on the reciprocity created by generosity. When a person is generous to others, tend to bring about a similar response because of the principle of reciprocity from others, and these people that are benefited by our generosity might be generous to ourselves or to other people. So this means that generosity begets generosity. This is a very important point because generosity acknowledges that we are all interconnected. This means that we need each other. We need to support each other and we need to care for each other. But imply also that generosity implies offering others not only tangible gifts. For example, if you have a friend with some difficulty, financial difficulty, you might offer like a loan or you give some money for them. But also you might offer what we call intangible gifts. For example, you might give a smile, you might give a ear to listen to them, you might give some advice, you might give some recommendation, you might give some information that is important, technical information, you might give some training. So this means that, and this is quite important because generosity, when you start with this cycle of generosity, you bring about positive ripple effects. This person also that receiving the gift also become aware of the importance of generosity and is more prone to behave in a generous way with others. There is a lot of research on this, but also not only people observing an act, there is a research paper on this, people observing an act of generosity can be infected positively by this act of generosity. A witness that is observing a person being generous with another also can be infected. What I mean infected positively means can also adopt a positive attitude toward others. A pro-social attitude means being generous with others. So generosity bring about more generosity, but also gratitude is also another aspect that discussed in one of the topics in my book, that is about being acknowledging the contribution of others, making feel that they count. How many times we connect to friends, we connect to relatives, we connect to partners, and we don't make them feel that they count in our lives. A question I always ask the listener to ask themselves is, how can I be more grateful with this person around me? How can I be more grateful for a small thing? For example, that they help me with something, or they listened to me when I was a bit worried, or they gave me a hug when I needed. And also, this again, when you are grateful, the person that received the thanks from the other tend also to reciprocate. They tend to act in a reciprocal way. And the third point that I want to cover is the specific aspect of compassion, because we talk a lot about compassion, but we didn't define compassion. Compassion is also one of the most important principles in this humanistic aspect of love. And compassion implies three main characteristics. It's one of the most complete principles that imply understanding how other people think, especially when they face difficulties, understanding how they think, how they feel. So this is what we call identifying with their feelings, and try to imagine how we would feel if we were in their position, and also try to offer support when possible. When possible implies, for example, being generous, offering an ear, listening to them, offering some advice, caring for them, being by their side, and so on. So this is so important. Why? Because compassion shows us that we have, even regardless of our background, or our culture, our beliefs, our political orientation, we have a common trait. We are all human beings. We have a common humanity. And by recognizing this, we can connect to others regardless of the apparent differences, the seeming differences that are not as relevant as the humanness or humanity that connect to others. So this means that when you are compassionate with others, you bridge these differences that you have with others in a very spontaneous and caring way. And also you help them a very soothing support to them, especially in challenging times. And people are very appreciative of this. When people feel supported by others, they also tend to keep this in the back of their mind, in their memory, as a positive experience. And if obviously the principle of reciprocity also comes up again. If you need some help in the future, they're more likely to support you. So compassionate people implies that they are there to listen to them, to be with them, to be present by their side, and if possible, offering support. Some researchers observe that to be compassionate, you don't have to spend a lot of time. In some cases, very simple, very short time, like 10 seconds. There is a lot of research, for example, in the medical sector, health sector, hospital. A doctor, for example, that is talking to a patient that is interned in this hospital, might be worried. The patient might be worried and they don't know about their health condition, if they will get worse or not. The doctor, with giving some caring words and listening to this patient, 10 seconds only, will make this patient feel better. And in some cases, the patient, when it's listened to, doesn't need, if they have to be operated, for example, doesn't need so much anesthesia or doesn't need so much calming pills. Why? Because they feel care on an emotional level. So this means that being cared by others also help you feel better on a physical level, not only on an emotional level.
Well, that just tells you how powerful it is, and how much of a difference it can make to others. And it's for me, I often when I think about compassion, it's not the big grandiose things. Sometimes it's the small acts that have the biggest meanings and that can have the biggest impact. And so what that says to me, Bruno, is that all of us can do it. We all can exercise it. It's within our reach. And it doesn't need a whole bunch. We don't have to do major things.
No, we are naturally compassionate because many people will believe that we are naturally unloving. There is a lot of research on this, and there is a very nice research that I want to cite. This was a research study that was conducted with kids, small children. And let's imagine this: two groups of children, and the first group of children, they have a puppet, like a box, and you have the two children are looking at the box in front of them, and then you have a puppet from behind of the box, and this puppet is like playing a role, like a puppet theater, and then there is another puppet coming from the other side, and treat this first puppet in a caring way. And then you have the same children, the second group of children are showing the same scene, but you have the two puppets, and the second puppet, when they're shown to children, this second puppet is showing uncaring attitude. For example, slamming the box on the first puppet. The children, then they ask to choose which of these two puppets want. The puppet that is caring from the first box, or the puppet that is uncaring from the second box. Most children choose the caring puppet. Why? This means that they can recognize that a caring attitude toward others make this puppet more attractive to their eyes. So this means small children that have no training at all can recognize a caring attitude from an uncaring attitude. This was a wonderful study that was replicated many times later on, but it's very important. I mentioned this in the book because it's so important that small children can naturally be identified with the caring attitude. So nice.
No, and again, that just speaks to the impact, and you're absolutely correct. Children can recognize it. There's no reason why adults can't either, man. So that's amazing. Bruno, give us your book is The Art of Compassionate Leadership, the Art of Compassionate Business.
Business.
It sounds to me it's a very important book because of the fact it connects all we've been talking up to this point. It connects the love and the soft emotions and the things that aren't typically aligned with leadership. It brings the two together. And I think what you've written is a very, very important book. And I'm glad that we're able here to talk about this topic because it was very, very impactful. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, it was a book. Now the second edition is coming out the second part of the year. And also, yes, because it was successful and the publisher asked me to develop this will include more examples and will include more examples of companies and non-profit organizations, but also other type of organization, for example, social businesses that have a positive impact, not only on the environment, but also on communities, on customer, employees. So I feel that this will be of interest for many listeners.
Amazing. Bruno, this has been such a delightful chat. I'm so glad that we got to spend the time together. For listeners that wanted to learn more about you or connect with you or where we can direct them to get a copy of their own book, where can we send them?
Well, the book can be found anywhere, bookshops offline or online worldwide, but also this was published by Routledge, and also the second edition is coming out. Maybe they can wait for the second edition. I think will be October this year, but Also, they can find me in my website, brunocignacco.com, www.brunocignacco.com, or they can find me, the easiest way to connect is LinkedIn. They found me on LinkedIn and they can connect to me. Thank you.
Amazing. Amazing. Bruno, listen, this has been a delightful time. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your invite. I feel very honored to be here. Thank you very much again. Thank you for your patience.
No problem. You were patient with me too. So we're compassionate with each other.
Thank you. Yes, right. It is this way. Thank you.
Take care. Good back. We are here on the podcast, and much thanks and appreciation goes out to Bruno for stopping by and sharing such delightful insights on compassion and how beneficial it can be for ourselves as well as companies and organizations. You know, if they incorporate these philosophies into their being, it would be such huge benefits. I'd encourage listeners to check out his book, The Art of Compassionate Business, and I made it super easy for you because I've included the link in the show notes. So just one click and you're there. So Bruno, thank you again for being here, and all the best, my friend. You know, I really appreciate the conversation that Dr. Bruno and I just had, but you know, there's just one thing I take from our chat, it would have to be this. In a world that often is filled with negativity and self-interest, it becomes increasingly important to highlight the virtues of compassion, kindness, and generosity. These qualities have the power to transform lives, bridge divides, and create a more harmonious and empathetic society. By demonstrating these qualities to others, we not only uplift them, but also contribute to their own personal growth and well-being. Let's explore the significance of compassion, kindness, and generosity, and how they can make a positive impact on individuals and communities alike. Let's start off with compassion, because compassion is the ability to empathize with others, to understand their suffering, and to take action to alleviate it. It's the recognition of our shared humanity and the desire to make a positive difference in someone else's life. Compassion fosters deep connections, breaks down barriers, and promotes a sense of unity. By showing compassion, we create a ripple effect that inspires others to do the same, ultimately fostering a more compassionate society. Kindness is another one. It's simply yet powerful act that can have a profound impact on both the giver and the recipient. It's the act of extending warmth, understanding, and support to others without expectations of anything in return. Kindness can be expressed through small gestures, such as a smile, a kind word, or a helpful hand. It costs us nothing, but has immeasurable value. Acts of kindness not only brighten someone's day, but also create a positive atmosphere, improve relationships, and promote overall well-being. And then lastly, generosity. Generosity goes beyond material possession. It's the mindset of abundance and a willingness to share our time, resources, and talents with other people. Being generous allows us to contribute to their well-being and make a meaningful difference in other people's lives. Whether it's donating to a charitable cause, volunteering your time, or offering emotional support, acts of generosity not only benefit those in need, but also bring us a sense of fulfillment and purpose. The benefits of demonstrating compassion, kindness, and generosity can have a profound impact on so many people's lives. When we demonstrate all three, we experience a sense of fulfillment, satisfaction, and increased happiness. Compassion, kindness, and generosity foster genuine connections with one another, with each other's. They help build trust, create a sense of belonging, and strengthen relationships. They also allow us to inspire others to do the same. Our actions have the potential to create a domino effect, encouraging a chain reaction of positive change. While as a society, we sometimes feel divided and disconnected, demonstrating compassion, kindness, and generosity becomes even more crucial. These virtues have the power to transform lives, create meaningful connections, and inspire positive change. By incorporating these qualities into our daily lives, we not only lift others up, but also experience personal growth and fulfillment. Let's embrace compassion, kindness, and generosity as guiding principles and work towards building a more compassionate and inclusive society. As we navigate the complexities of our world, let us be beacons of compassion, kindness, and generosity. Let us inspire others to join in creating a better world, one act of goodness at a time. Together, we can build a society that values empathy, uplifts one another, and embraces the power of compassion, kindness, and generosity. We've sadly come to the end of another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast. And as always, I send my thanks and appreciation to those listeners and all those lovers of audaciousness for your tremendous ongoing support. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.